The human warship appeared suddenly in the vast expanse of the Tyrannus Empire, a place where humans were not expected to reach for many centuries. The HMS Resolute drifted quietly through the empty blackness of space, its hull reflecting distant starlight. Inside, Commander Alina Ward stood on the bridge, staring at the display. The ship had malfunctioned during a test of a new warp system, and somehow it had crossed thousands of light years, arriving unannounced in enemy territory. The crew moved quickly, checking systems and preparing for possible encounters. But none of them had expected what would come next. Imperial long-range sensors had picked up the human vessel almost immediately. The first alarm sounded on the bridge of the closest Imperial patrol ship. Lieutenant Jason Bell, who monitored communications, noticed the strange readings and alerted Commander Vorak, who was in charge of the sector. Vorak's eyes widened at the sight of the human warship on his monitors. Humans were supposed to be confined to a single star system, not capable of interstellar travel. The thought that one could appear in his sector made him feel both confused and threatened. Orders were given to launch interceptors. Patrol ships sped through the void, their engines leaving faint trails of ionized particles behind them. On the Resolute, the human crew sensed movement on nearby sensors. Alina Ward called her officers together and told them to prepare for contact, but remain calm. No one knew how the Empire would react. The first patrol ship came into view, a sleek craft with angular wings and a metallic sheen. It maneuvered carefully around the human ship, sending a communication signal that read as a challenge. Jason Bell stepped forward and attempted to translate it, his fingers flying across the console. The message was formal, curious, and cautious, but the underlying tension was unmistakable. The humans responded with a standard greeting, explaining that they meant no harm and had arrived by accident. Commander Ward's voice was steady but firm, as she knew any wrong move could provoke an attack. Meanwhile, in the Empire's command center, Admiral Vorak convened his council. Scientists, strategists, and political advisors crowded around the table, all looking at the projection of the human ship. Dr. Lena Torsen, the lead scientist, suggested that humans must have gained advanced technology, perhaps stolen from some ancient archive. The idea sent murmurs through the room. Others feared that the humans were scouts for an invasion fleet that had yet to arrive. Vorak held his hands together and considered both possibilities. He ordered his patrols to hold fire, but maintain a blockade. They needed more information before acting. On the Resolute, Chief Engineer Laura Kent worked frantically in the engineering bay. The warp drive had left them far from their intended location, and she feared further damage could endanger the entire ship. Sparks flew as she patched circuits and rerouted power, trying to keep the core stable. Outside, the patrol ships orbited the human vessel like predators watching an unfamiliar creature. Tension filled the void as both sides waited to see what the other would do. Communication continued cautiously, each side interpreting the signals according to their own fears and assumptions. At one point, a sensor misread a reflection from the Resolute as a weapons lock, prompting an alarm on one of the patrol ships. A few seconds of panic passed before the signal was verified as harmless. Alina Ward exhaled deeply, knowing that a single mistake could spark a battle. For the first time, humans realized the weight of their presence in this sector. They were not supposed to be here, and now they were at the mercy of an empire that had long thought them primitive. Vorak decided to send an envoy ship, a small vessel with a crew trained in diplomacy and science, to get a closer look at the human ship without provoking hostility. The envoy approached carefully, scanning the Resolute from all angles. Inside, the humans maintained readiness, but they welcomed the opportunity to communicate without weapons drawn. Lieutenant Bell spoke to the envoy captain, introducing himself and Commander Ward, explaining their unplanned arrival and their intentions. The Imperial envoy reported back to Admiral Vorak, who listened carefully. He realized that these humans were not invaders, but a new variable in the galaxy he had never considered. Yet caution remained his priority. Over the next few hours, both sides continued to observe each other. The Resolute maintained a defensive posture, while the patrol ship circled cautiously. On the human bridge, crew members whispered among themselves about the possibilities of encountering such an advanced civilization. Some feared combat, others were curious, and all were aware that they had crossed a line that could change everything. Outside the ship, the cold blackness of space remained silent, indifferent to the small drama unfolding within it. Stars glimmered in the distance as if watching, ancient and unfeeling. As two civilizations approached a moment that might define their future, Commander Ward reflected on the irony of the situation. Humans, thought to be weak and primitive, now faced a galactic empire with suspicion and power. She knew that survival depended on patience, understanding, and the ability to act with clarity, even in the face of danger. The Resolute moved slowly through the sector, its engines humming quietly. Every sensor ping, every communication signal, and every movement of the Imperial patrol ships carried significance. Each side studied the other, trying to predict intentions and avoid mistakes. For the humans, this was a lesson in caution and diplomacy. For the Empire, it was a lesson in the unexpected capabilities of a species they had underestimated. As the hours passed, the tension remained, but so did a fragile understanding that immediate conflict could be avoided. Both sides were learning, adapting, and preparing for the next steps. The human crew checked and rechecked every system, while the Imperial command debated the implications of this unprecedented encounter. In that quiet void, a human warship and the forces of a galactic empire faced each other for the first time. Their fates intertwined by a chance occurrence and the unpredictable nature of space. The moment was small in the vastness of the galaxy, yet its significance would ripple far beyond the sector, shaping the perception of humanity and the decisions of the Empire for years to come. The Resolute continued to drift slowly through the Tirana sector, surrounded by Imperial patrol ships that moved like silent shadows against the backdrop of distant stars. Commander Alina Ward stood on the bridge, her hands resting lightly on the console, her eyes scanning the sensor readouts. Every movement of the patrol ships was carefully tracked, and every signal received was examined for meaning. Lieutenant Jason Bell worked beside her, translating the complex communication signals from the Empire into a language the human crew could understand. The Imperial envoy had moved closer, a sleek craft that glimmered under distant starlight. Its approach was cautious, and yet the tension in the void was tangible. Commander Ward signaled her crew to maintain a calm presence, showing that humans meant no harm but were ready to defend themselves if needed. Chief Engineer Laura Kent continued to monitor the warp systems, ensuring that the drive remained stable. Any further malfunction could leave the ship stranded in hostile space, with no hope of returning home. She moved quickly, checking circuits, rerouting power, and adjusting energy flows. Sparks flew occasionally, but she worked with focus, aware that failure was not an option. On the Empire's side, Admiral Vorak studied the communications and sensor data with a frown. The human ship was technologically advanced in ways that surprised even the best minds of the Empire. Dr. Lena Torsen and her team worked tirelessly to understand the design of the human vessel from the limited data they could gather. Every reading suggested that humanity had achieved something far beyond what the Empire had expected from a pre-FTL species. The Imperial Council debated the humans' intentions. Some argued for a cautious approach, emphasizing diplomacy and observation. Others suggested seizing the ship or preparing for combat, fearing that the humans might be a scouting force for an invasion that could arrive at any time. Vorak's voice was calm but firm. He decided to maintain the blockade and gather more information before making any moves. The envoy craft continued its approach, signaling for a direct meeting. Commander Ward knew this was an opportunity to establish peaceful communication. She instructed Lieutenant Bell to prepare a message, introducing the humans and explaining their accidental arrival. The message was sent, and the Imperial envoy responded with a formal acknowledgement, confirming a willingness to meet under careful observation. The crew of the Resolute exchanged quiet glances, understanding the gravity of the moment. Humans had crossed into a territory that no human had ever seen before, and the eyes of a powerful empire were now upon them. Despite the tension, there was a sense of curiosity among the crew. They had always wondered what lay beyond their system, and now they were seeing it firsthand. The bridge was filled with a mixture of nervousness and awe as the Imperial envoy drew near. The human message was received, and after careful analysis, The envoy signaled back that the humans would be allowed to communicate face-to-face in a controlled manner. Commander Ward instructed her crew to maintain readiness, but to remain non-aggressive. Outside, the patrol ships continued to circle, their sensors active, tracking every movement of the Resolute. The crew worked efficiently, aware that any mistake could trigger a misunderstanding or even combat. Lieutenant Bell prepared the communication interface, translating both ways to ensure clarity. The Imperial envoy approached slowly, maintaining a safe distance from the Resolute. Its design was unfamiliar, sleek and angular, yet built for efficiency and speed. The humans observed carefully, taking in every detail of the ship, while the envoy crew studied the Resolute just as intensely. Commander Ward finally spoke into the communication channel, her voice steady and calm. She explained their situation, how the warp malfunction had led them to this sector, and that they sought no conflict. She offered cooperation in any way that could prevent misunderstandings. There was a pause before the Imperial response arrived. The envoy acknowledged the message, and then requested that Commander Ward provide further details about the human vessel and its capabilities. Lieutenant Bell relayed the questions and carefully translated the answers. Each word was chosen with care to avoid offense or misinterpretation. Meanwhile, Chief Engineer Laura Kent reported that the warp drive was stable for the moment, but could not sustain long-term travel without maintenance. Commander Ward made a note to discuss repairs once they had a clearer understanding of Imperial intentions. On the Empire's side, Admiral Vorak and his council listened intently. The humans were clearly intelligent, resourceful, and capable of interstellar travel, despite what was previously assumed. Dr. Torsen suggested that the warp drive might operate on principles not known to Imperial science, making the humans potentially dangerous but also fascinating. The debate continued, with some advocating for immediate action to seize the ship and others urging caution to avoid starting a war. The human envoy within the communication network made a suggestion for a controlled meeting between engineers and scientists from both sides, emphasizing that cooperation could prevent accidental conflict. After much discussion, Vorak reluctantly agreed, seeing the wisdom in a measured approach. The Resolute prepared for a small exchange, readying personnel and ensuring that security measures were in place. Commander Ward briefed her crew, emphasizing calm, professionalism, and vigilance. Lieutenant Bell worked tirelessly to ensure that all communication protocols were clear and precise. As the envoy ships docked or established a controlled link, humans and Imperials observed each other closely. There was curiosity in every gesture, tension in every glance, and a cautious willingness to cooperate. Engineers and scientists from both sides began to exchange information, explaining basic ship functions, warp theory, and safety protocols. Despite differences in language, culture, and technology, a mutual understanding slowly began to form. Outside, the patrol ships remained vigilant, ready to react at the first sign of hostility. Inside, humans and Imperials spoke in measured tones, learning from each other while carefully maintaining their respective positions. Commander Ward knew that every word, every gesture, and every decision mattered. The future of this encounter depended on patience, diplomacy, and the ability to act wisely under pressure. Hours passed as discussions continued, with both sides gaining insight into the other's capabilities. The Empire began to recognize that humans were not the weak and primitive species they had assumed. Instead, they were clever, adaptable, and capable of incredible technological innovation. On the Resolute, crew members felt a mixture of pride and apprehension. They had entered a new part of the galaxy, faced a powerful civilization, and survived the first contact without violence. It was a moment of tension and hope intertwined. Commander Ward reflected on the significance of their position. Humans had always thought of themselves as limited by their system, but now they were seen as equals in skill and intelligence. The encounter had the potential to change the course of history, both for the humans and for the Empire. Outside, the stars shone cold and indifferent. Yet within the human ship and the surrounding Imperial patrols, a small spark of understanding had begun. Both sides realized that cooperation, rather than conflict, could prevent disaster and create possibilities that neither had imagined. The Resolute remained in position, its systems humming steadily, while Imperial patrol ships held their orbits with care. Communication channels remained active, and scientists and engineers continued to exchange knowledge. In that quiet, tense space, humans and Imperials discovered that understanding could bridge even the greatest divides. The first contact was over, yet it marked the beginning of a complex relationship that would shape the galaxy. Commander Ward knew that the next steps would be even more challenging. But for now, there was a fragile peace born from curiosity, caution, and mutual respect. The hours passed slowly, filled with cautious observation and measured communication. The human crew of the Resolute remained vigilant, their eyes scanning the void for any signs of unexpected aggression. Commander Elena Ward paced the bridge quietly, considering the situation with careful thought. The Empire's reaction had been more measured than she expected, but she knew that beneath the polite dialogue lay suspicion and fear. Lieutenant Jason Bell monitored incoming transmissions, translating Imperial questions and comments for the crew. Each message carried layers of meaning, some of which hinted at concern over human capabilities and intentions. Commander Ward instructed her team to answer truthfully, but with caution, revealing enough to build trust without giving away vulnerabilities. Chief Engineer Laura Kent continued her work in the engineering bay. The warp drive had stabilized, but she knew it was only a matter of time before further maintenance would be required. Sparks flew occasionally as circuits were rerouted and systems checked. She worked with focus, aware that failure could leave the ship stranded in enemy space. Outside, the Imperial patrols circled cautiously, their sensors active, and their weapon systems on standby. The Empire was clearly uncertain about how to handle this unexpected human presence. On the Imperial command ship, Admiral Vorak observed the situation with a mixture of curiosity and concern. His council debated the possibilities, discussing whether the humans were scouts for a larger force, had stolen advanced technology, or were simply lucky to have traveled so far. Dr. Lena Torsen explained that the humans' warp drive operated on principles not fully understood by Imperial science. The suggestion caused murmurs of both worry and admiration. Some council members argued for immediate military action, fearing the unknown. Others advocated patience, emphasizing that diplomacy could yield more information and avoid unnecessary conflict. Vorak decided to continue monitoring and engage in careful negotiation, rather than risking a battle with unpredictable consequences. The Resolute prepared for a limited exchange, sending out a small shuttle with select crew members and engineers. Commander Ward personally oversaw the preparations, making sure that all protocols were followed to maintain safety. The shuttle approached the Imperial command ship slowly, guided by careful calculations and constant communication. The crew of the Resolute watched the shuttle from the bridge, their nerves taut with anticipation. Inside the Imperial command ship, the shuttle docked under strict supervision. Humans and Imperials observed each other carefully, each side measuring the other's intentions. Engineers and scientists began a cautious exchange of technical information, explaining the basics of warp theory, energy management, and ship systems. Despite language barriers and cultural differences, understanding began to form. Commander Ward communicated through the translators, emphasizing that humans sought knowledge and safe passage, not conquest. Lieutenant Bell relayed every question and answer with precision, ensuring that no detail was misunderstood. Chief Engineer Kent worked alongside Imperial engineers, exchanging ideas and learning about unfamiliar technologies. Each discovery deepened their understanding of the differences and similarities between the two civilizations. Outside, patrol ships remained vigilant, ready to respond if the situation escalated. The atmosphere was tense, but a fragile cooperation had begun to take root. Back on the Resolute, the bridge crew remained alert. Every sensor reading, every message, and every movement mattered. They knew that a single mistake could ignite conflict, but they also understood that patience and clear communication could prevent disaster. Commander Ward considered the bigger picture. Humans had entered a vast empire unexpectedly, and had demonstrated resourcefulness and intelligence that challenged previous assumptions. This encounter was a turning point, not only for the humans, but for the Empire as well. The Imperial Command Ship's Council observed the humans closely, noting their discipline, calmness under pressure, and willingness to cooperate. The more they studied them, the more they realized that humanity might be underestimated at their peril. Dr. Torsen suggested that collaboration could be more beneficial than confrontation, as understanding human technology and strategies could offer valuable insights. Admiral Vorak reluctantly agreed, instructing his officers to continue measured observation and cautious engagement. Ours turned into a full cycle as humans and Imperials worked together in a delicate dance of observation and cooperation. The shuttle returned to the Resolute, bringing back data, notes, and preliminary assessments. Commander Ward debriefed her team, discussing what had been learned and planning for the next steps. Lieutenant Bell reviewed the translated data, highlighting key points that might be of interest to the Imperial scientists. Chief Engineer Kent assessed the technical findings, noting both similarities and differences with human systems. Outside, the stars remained silent witnesses to the unprecedented encounter. Patrol ships continued their orbits, maintaining vigilance without hostility. Within the Resolute and the Imperial command ship, humans and Imperials began to recognize each other, not as enemies, but as intelligent beings, with much to learn from one another. As the day drew to a close, Commander Ward gathered her officers. She spoke calmly, emphasizing the importance of patience, observation, and careful diplomacy. She reminded them that their presence in this sector had already altered perceptions, and that the choices they made now would resonate far beyond this encounter. Lieutenant Bell and Chief Engineer Kent shared quiet discussions about the future. Recognizing that humanity's sudden arrival had opened doors to opportunities and dangers alike, the Empire's leadership continued to evaluate the situation, weighing the risks and benefits of continued cooperation. Admiral Vorak realized that humans were no longer the primitive species his records had described. They were clever, adaptable, and capable of navigating the vastness of space with ingenuity and skill. In the void outside, the HMS Resolute remained steady, a small beacon of human determination and resilience. The ship had arrived by accident, but its presence now carried weight beyond its size. Humans and Imperials had begun the slow process of understanding each other, a process that required trust, patience, and careful observation. Commander Ward reflected on the fragility and potential of the moment. Humans had entered a realm where they were expected to be insignificant. Yet their actions, discipline, and intelligence had forced the Empire to reconsider. The lessons learned during this encounter would influence decisions, policies, and strategies on both sides for years to come. In the quiet of the Resolute, the crew felt a mixture of pride, relief, and apprehension. They had survived the first major test in unknown territory without conflict and had established a foundation for potential collaboration. Outside, the stars shone indifferently. Yet the human ship and the Imperial patrols were bound together by a shared awareness of intelligence and the unknown. The shuttle and communications links continued to operate, allowing knowledge and understanding to flow carefully between humans and Imperials. Each side respected the boundaries and capacities of the other, slowly building trust through measured action. Commander Ward knew that the days ahead would bring new challenges, but for now, there was cautious hope. Humanity had made its presence known in the Tyrannus sector, not as conquerors, but as capable, intelligent beings worthy of recognition. In that small moment in a vast galaxy, humans and Imperials faced each other with curiosity, wariness, and the first seeds of respect, understanding that the future would depend on how wisely they navigated this unprecedented encounter. The void of space was filled with a tense quiet as the human Warship HMS Resolute continued its cautious movements in the Tyrannus sector. Commander Alina Ward stood on the bridge, her eyes scanning the monitors for any sign of Imperial activity that might indicate hostility. Every patrol ship, every sensor reading, and every communications signal was studied carefully. The presence of humans in this territory had caused an unexpected stir within the Empire.
Ow.
And now both sides were testing the boundaries of patience and diplomacy. Lieutenant Jason Bell worked steadily at the communication console, translating the complex messages coming from the Imperial command ship. Each signal carried a mixture of caution, curiosity, and subtle warnings. Commander Ward instructed the crew to respond clearly, avoiding any words that could be misunderstood as aggressive. Chief Engineer Laura Kent continued to maintain the warp drive. The engine had stabilized after the initial malfunction, but she knew that the longer they stayed in enemy space, the greater the risk of further problems. She worked diligently, adjusting power flows and monitoring the core with meticulous care. Outside, the resolute Imperial patrols moved cautiously, their sleek hulls reflecting the distant starlight. The Empire had deployed a battle group, unsure whether the humans were alone or part of a larger hidden force. Admiral Vorak observed the sector from the command ship, his mind a mix of concern and fascination. The humans had already demonstrated technological skill that challenged their expectations, and he was unsure whether to treat them as a threat or a valuable opportunity for knowledge. The decision weighed heavily on him. On the Resolute, Commander Ward received a direct communication request from Admiral Vorak. The message suggested a controlled engagement to assess the humans' tensions more directly. Ward understood the potential dangers, but also saw a chance to avoid misunderstanding and establish trust. She instructed Lieutenant Bell to prepare a response, offering to meet under carefully defined terms. The Imperial ships formed a cautious perimeter as a small human shuttle prepared for approach. Crew members on the bridge watched silently, aware that this encounter could change the trajectory of both civilizations. Inside the shuttle, a few engineers and liaison officers were ready to engage, carrying information about the Resolute systems and capabilities. As the shuttle moved closer to the Imperial command ship, sensors tracked its every motion. Both sides knew that a single misstep could spark a dangerous conflict. The docking was carefully controlled, and humans and Imperials observed each other closely. Despite their differences, both sides understood the importance of maintaining calm and restraint. Engineers from the Empire examined the shuttle's systems, comparing them to their own technology. The humans explained basic operational principles, while learning about Imperial designs in turn. Commander Ward communicated with clarity, emphasizing peaceful intentions and a willingness to cooperate. Lieutenant Bell translated technical explanations and answers, ensuring that no detail was lost or misunderstood. Chief Engineer Kent worked alongside Imperial engineers, sharing knowledge and learning about new approaches to energy management and propulsion. The exchange was cautious but productive, each side gaining insight into the other's capabilities. Outside, the patrol ships maintained their positions, scanning for any signs of unexpected activity. The atmosphere was tense but controlled. Back on the Imperial command ship, Admiral Vorak and his council reviewed all reports carefully. Humans were proving themselves intelligent, resourceful, and disciplined. Dr. Lena Torsen explained that the warp drive principles employed by the humans were not fully understood, suggesting that their species could present both danger and opportunity. The council debated their approach, some urging restraint and cooperation, others advising continued vigilance and readiness for combat. Vorak decided that measured observation combined with cautious diplomacy was the wisest path. Meanwhile, on the Resolute, the crew continued their work. Maintenance, monitoring, and analysis occupied every officer and engineer. The knowledge gained from the Imperial exchange was valuable, but Commander Ward knew that the Empire's attitude could shift quickly if miscommunication occurred. Hours passed as humans and Imperials engaged in technical dialogue, sharing theories, methods, and observations. The shuttle returned to the Resolute, bringing additional data and assessments. The bridge crew reviewed everything carefully, planning for future engagement and ensuring that all systems remained secure. Outside, the stars remained indifferent witnesses to the complex and unprecedented situation. Humans and Imperials both recognized the significance of the encounter, understanding that it could shape the future of relations across the galaxy. Commander Ward reflected on the lessons learned so far. Humans had entered unknown territory, survived first contact, and established a foundation for understanding with a powerful and cautious empire. Lieutenant Bell noted subtle shifts in Imperial behavior, recognizing small signs of respect and interest in human ingenuity. Chief Engineer Kent analyzed the technical exchanges, noting possibilities for future improvements and collaboration. In the quiet of space, both civilizations began to see potential in each other. The humans were no longer the simple, primitive species recorded in imperial databases. Their ingenuity, discipline, and courage had forced the Empire to reconsider long-held assumptions. For the first time, Admiral Vorak acknowledged the need to treat humanity as more than a curiosity or a potential threat. The next steps would be critical. Commander Ward held a final briefing with her officers, stressing the importance of vigilance, clear communication, and strategic patience. Every decision, she reminded them, could have far-reaching consequences. Lieutenant Bell and Chief Engineer Kent discussed ongoing technical exchanges and strategies for continued cooperation. They were aware that the balance between trust and caution was delicate, and that careful planning was essential. Outside, the patrol ships continued to hold positions, maintaining readiness without aggression. Within the human ship and the surrounding Imperial fleet, a cautious understanding had begun to develop. The Resolute and its crew represented more than just a single species in a distant sector. They symbolized the possibility of bridging the gap between civilizations through intelligence, diplomacy, and restraint. Commander Ward looked out at the stars, reflecting on the unusual circumstances that had brought them here. Humans had arrived unexpectedly in a sector controlled by a powerful empire and had already begun to demonstrate their worth through calm, reasoned actions, and technological competence. The encounter had shifted perceptions on both sides, showing that understanding and cooperation were possible even in the face of uncertainty and potential danger. The crew of the Resolute worked tirelessly, monitoring, maintaining, and preparing for whatever might come next. Each officer and engineer knew that their actions mattered not only for the safety of their ship, but also for the future of humanity's reputation in the galaxy. The Empire, too, was learning. Admiral Vorak and his council recognized that the humans' abilities were real and significant. They had underestimated a species that had now shown ingenuity, adaptability, and discipline beyond expectation. Decisions about the humans' fate would need to be made with care, balancing caution with opportunity. In that tense, silent expanse of space, the human warship and the Imperial patrols faced each other with a mix of wariness, curiosity, and respect. They were bound together by circumstance, knowledge, and the possibility of understanding. Commander Ward understood that every move, every word, and every decision mattered. The future of human and Imperial relations could hinge on the actions taken in these hours of careful observation and engagement. As the day drew to a close, humans and Imperials alike recognized the fragile nature of their situation. Cooperation had begun, but trust was still tentative. The void of space was silent and indifferent, yet within it, two civilizations were learning to navigate a new relationship. The HMS Resolute moved steadily, a symbol of human determination and capability. The patrol ships maintained their watch, a reminder that caution and vigilance remained essential. Both sides were aware that the next moments could define the future of interactions, diplomacy, and power in this sector. Commander Ward held her officers close to the situation, preparing them for continued engagement with intelligence, patience, and care. Lieutenant Bell continued to translate every message with precision, and Chief Engineer Kent ensured that the ship remained ready for any eventuality. The first real steps toward understanding and potential cooperation had been taken, but the path ahead remained uncertain. Humans had arrived unexpectedly in the Tirana sector, faced a powerful empire, and survived the initial tests of intelligence, diplomacy, and restraint. The lessons learned in these hours would guide future decisions, shape perceptions, and influence the course of events far beyond this single encounter. The Resolute drifted in the sector, its engines humming quietly as the crew continued to monitor the surrounding Imperial fleet. Commander Alina Ward stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the data screens, reading each sensor report with care. The events of the past days had been intense, full of tension, observation, and cautious exchanges. Now, a moment of opportunity and uncertainty had arrived, one that could shape the future of humans in the Tirana sector. Lieutenant Jason Bell worked at the communication console, translating messages and coordinating with the Imperial command ship. Each signal carried multiple meanings, from curiosity to caution, and he ensured that every human response was clear, careful, and precise. Chief Engineer Laura Kent continued to inspect the warp drive and other systems, making sure the ship could maintain stability in case sudden movement became necessary. The humans had learned that operating in Imperial space required constant vigilance and readiness. Outside, the Imperial patrol ships maintained their positions, circling the Resolute with an impressive display of coordination and control. Admiral Vorak observed the situation from the command ship. Considering the lessons learned from this unprecedented encounter, humanity had demonstrated intelligence, ingenuity, and resilience, traits that challenged long-held assumptions. Dr. Lena Torsen and her team of Imperial scientists had studied the data from the human ship and were impressed by the technical achievements and adaptability of its crew. They reported that the humans had achieved stable interstellar travel with a design that was simple yet highly effective, a combination that made them formidable in ways previously unimagined. In a carefully coordinated move, a team of Imperial engineers and diplomats established a temporary joint operations link with the Resolute. This allowed humans and Imperials to work side by side in real time, sharing information and collaborating to address technical challenges. Commander Ward directed her team with calm authority, ensuring that interactions remained professional, respectful, and productive. Lieutenant Bell relayed technical questions, feedback, and updates, maintaining clarity and preventing misinterpretations. Chief Engineer Kent engaged with Imperial engineers, exchanging insights on propulsion systems, energy management, and operational safety. Through these discussions, both sides discovered similarities and differences that deepened their understanding. Outside, patrol ships monitored the perimeter, alert but non-aggressive, signaling that the Empire was willing to engage but remained cautious. On the command ship, Admiral Vorak convened a council meeting to review the developments. The humans were clearly capable, disciplined, and intelligent, and their presence could no longer be dismissed as an anomaly. Dr. Torsen emphasized the strategic implications of human ingenuity, noting that collaboration could benefit both civilizations by fostering understanding and sharing knowledge. The council debated the next steps, balancing caution with the potential for opportunity. Vorak concluded that measured cooperation, careful observation, and continued dialogue were the best path forward. He issued instructions for limited exchanges and shared projects, with clear guidelines to prevent misunderstandings and maintain safety. On the Resolute, the crew implemented these instructions, working with diligence and care. Engineers and scientists from both sides conducted experiments, analyzed data, and explored the technical boundaries of the human warp system and Imperial technology. Commander Ward oversaw the operations, ensuring coordination and readiness. Lieutenant Bell ensured smooth communication, while Chief Engineer Kent maintained ship systems and monitored the performance of shared experiments. Over the following hours, humans and Imperials achieved notable successes, including stabilizing energy flows in shared systems, proving sensor calibration, and exchanging valuable theoretical insights. Each accomplishment built trust and demonstrated the potential for peaceful cooperation. The humans learned about Imperial technology and strategy, while the Imperials gained insight into human ingenuity and problem-solving approaches. The patrol ships outside continued their vigilant presence, reinforcing the seriousness and caution of the Empire. Commander Ward recognized the importance of every action, gesture, and communication. She knew that humanity's reputation and safety depended on professionalism, clarity, and intelligence. Lieutenant Bell and Chief Engineer Kent collaborated closely with the Imperial team, developing mutual respect and understanding through shared knowledge and experience. Slowly, a sense of cautious trust began to form. Both sides had learned that cooperation was more productive than confrontation, and that intelligence, skill, and careful diplomacy could bridge even the largest gaps. In the quiet moments, the humans reflected on their unexpected journey, realizing that a warp malfunction had placed them at the center of an unprecedented situation. They had faced suspicion, tension, and uncertainty, yet they had proven their worth through competence, resilience, and reasoned action. Outside, the stars shone indifferently, yet within the sector, humans and Imperials had begun to rewrite assumptions and expectations. Commander Ward knew that the future would bring new challenges, but she also understood that the foundation had been laid for a potentially transformative relationship. Humans were no longer seen as primitive or insignificant. They were recognized as intelligent, capable, and worthy of respect. Admiral Vorak and his council had begun to view humanity as a rising power, a species that demanded attention and consideration in any strategic calculation. The Resolute prepared for further engagement, its crew ready to respond to new opportunities or threats. Every system was monitored, every message scrutinized, and every movement considered. Commander Ward continued to lead with clarity and patience, knowing that the coming days would require continued vigilance. Lieutenant Bell maintained flawless communication, ensuring that all exchanges remained accurate and precise. Chief Engineer Kent worked tirelessly to maintain operational readiness and maximize learning opportunities from the shared experiments. Over the next cycle, humans and Imperials collaborated to stabilize a minor spatial anomaly detected near the sector. The anomaly threatened to disrupt both fleets if left unchecked. Commander Ward proposed a joint effort to contain it. Admiral Vorak agreed, recognizing that cooperation was the only way to avoid disaster. Working together, humans and Imperials combined their knowledge, skills, and technology to neutralize the anomaly, preventing damage to both sides. This success earned unexpected respect and trust, demonstrating that humanity could contribute meaningfully to shared objectives and challenges. Following the containment of the anomaly, Admiral Vorak acknowledged the achievements of the humans. Their intelligence, ingenuity, and willingness to cooperate had proven them capable partners rather than primitive outsiders. Commander Ward expressed gratitude, emphasizing that mutual respect and careful collaboration were the keys to stability and understanding. The Resolute received temporary safe passage, a sign that humanity was no longer considered a threat, but a species to be reckoned with. The encounter had sparked debates across the Empire, reshaping perceptions and forcing a reconsideration of prior assumptions about human capabilities. On the Resolute, the crew felt a mixture of pride, relief, and cautious optimism. They had entered unknown space, faced a powerful civilization, and established a foundation for peaceful cooperation. The experience had shown them the importance of discipline, intelligence, and patience in navigating both technological and political challenges. As the human warship prepared for further operations, the stars remained indifferent. Yet the humans and Imperials within the sector had begun to redefine the rules of engagement, understanding, and respect. The humans had arrived unexpectedly, but their actions had created ripples that would influence future decisions, diplomacy, and relationships. Commander Ward knew that this was only the beginning, but for now, humanity had proven its worth, and the Empire had begun to see them in a new light. The fragile peace had been established, understanding had begun to form, and the seeds of a new era were planted in the Tyrannus sector, with humans standing not as intruders, but as capable, intelligent participants in the unfolding story of the galaxy.